Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business to help educate you on complex legal terms in an easy to understand manner, to help understand why you need to do certain things in your business from a legal point of view, and to help you develop a plan for the future. Our mission at Business Legal Lifecycle is to help empower all small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. Have you ever wanted to get legal advice but didn't understand what was going on? Do you feel like there is a divide between lawyers and their clients? Then this TV show is for you. It is all about empowering you and your business with the knowledge and tools to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. Business Legal Lifecycle TV delivers a twice-weekly show focusing on the legal aspects of your business. At lunchtime on Mondays, we present Fast Fix Monday, a quick 5 to 10 minute show that will give you some actionable steps to consider for the week for your business. And at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we present our in-depth show of between 30 minutes and an hour, where we go through complicated legal aspects of your business in a simple to understand, plain English manner. And whether that is through educational pieces or interviews with experts in their fields.
Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV. I am Craig Mason. I have with me Jeremy Stratton. Say hello to everyone, Jeremy.
Hello, Craig Mason. Good to see you today, and good to see everyone who's here and listening to us on the podcast.
Excellent. So today is Wednesday, so it's one of our longer form shows, and excitingly today is an interview show. And it's actually an international guest that's joining us today at Business Legal Lifecycle TV. Gentleman is by the name of Dave Scott. Now, Dave Scott is the founder and owner of Scott Digital Marketing, based in North Dakota. He has 17 years experience in technology and business, holding positions in various high growth firms. He's also owned multiple small companies across those time. He's got a broad range of experience, including growing US domestic and international teams, while leveraging his leadership qualities to handle challenging situations. He's recently established, as I said, Scott Digital Marketing. We thought it'd be a great idea to bring him on to the show to talk about marketing, obviously, and his framework for helping his clients. So, Jeremy, what are your sort of top 3 things that you got out of the interview with Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So Dave just so everyone knows, is a member of a networking group that I'm part of in the US. And so I thought I'd bring him on because he's got some really great ideas. But we go through a lot of topics. This is a long one. It goes for about 50 minutes, the whole interview, but there's a lot of information here. Probably the 3 top main things are his history and some of the lessons that he's learned over his life as being in business and working for the variety of companies that he's worked for. The second one, and probably the majority of the interview, is about his 5 Ps of digital marketing. So I won't spoil Dave's introduction to that, but Dave has 5 Ps of digital marketing. It's really interesting to see a structure around what you should be doing in that space. And the final is, I always ask people, Craig, about their thoughts about the future and what disruption's coming. And Dave, he's worked in a lot of SaaS companies, as you'll hear. He's worked in a lot of different industries, and he's got some really interesting thoughts about where disruption is going, especially in the digital marketing space. So look, Dave and I, we've known each other for a few months now. We're good friends, and I hope that comes through some of the really good information, because Dave's he's a ninja with some of this digital marketing stuff. So look, I hope everyone enjoys my interview with Dave Scott. Welcome, Dave, to Business Legal Lifecycle TV and our podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So let's start out with a bit about you and your business. Can you tell us a bit about your history and how you got into digital marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into digital marketing after spending about the first 10 or 12 years of my career in just pure business development and sales. So I worked for a handful of really small, or large companies, actually, not small companies, Fortune 1000.
Wow.
I worked for a while as a sales rep and a sales manager for California Closets, which is a very large custom closet company based in California. They're now owned by a big conglomerate, I think, in Canada, but they have a franchise model, and I worked for one of their franchises for quite some time. Spent some time, I'm from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, which means that I'm definitely akin to a lot of the big Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies there. So I worked for Circuit City and Best Buy for a short period of time.
Yep.
And then I worked for Verizon Corporate for almost 5 years. Went through 3 different acquisitions with them. They acquired the small rural cellular carrier that I was with. And then I went through divestiture, and then, which you I'm sure know in the legal realm. And then I set it on my own back in 2011. My best friend and college roommate started an e-commerce consultancy, and really what he wanted to do was be a full-scale digital marketing agency for companies who sold online. And he knew that the trends then were definitely pointing to online, and this is back in 2011.
Okay.
So e-commerce was definitely not in its infancy, but it was still new, relatively new for a lot of large retailers. So his goal was really to build $1 billion practice and $1 billion company around e-commerce and marketing and driving traffic so that companies could boost their business on the web.
Yep.
So that's kind of by default how I got my start in marketing, was becoming a partner there and in charge of the company, in charge of a lot of the marketing and the sales, and that was my first foray into entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And yeah, that's how I got my start into marketing.
Excellent. And so now you're in your own business. So why did you start your own business?
Yeah, so I got back into it back in October, this last October of 2017. So I got back into it for a pretty sad reason. So back in 2011, when I started the consultancy with my best friend and college roommate, I left that and I went out into just doing e-commerce consulting. So I worked with a couple of EDI and e-commerce companies and did some just side consulting. And then a friend of mine called me back in about 2013, 2014. And he said, we're starting a billing and a payments software as a service startup, and we're a high growth tech firm.
Yep.
We're based in, you'll never guess it, in tropical Fargo. And he said, someday we want you to move here. And I was like, no way, I'm never moving to Fargo. I'd rather move to the Antarctic naked than move to Fargo. And so I said, never say never. And he was like, be careful you say never, because it usually comes true, and it did.
Yep.
So I was there for almost 4 years, and the company had 6x growth in that 4-year period, or about 5x growth in that 4-year period. It was just incredible.
Wow.
One of the minority partners there died of cancer back in October of 2017. He was a very good friend of mine.
Yep.
We had a lot of very deep, honest, transparent, vulnerable, authentic conversations around faith and where does your soul go after you die. And I don't know about you, but I definitely believe that your soul is something that we all have, and that we have to be very careful with it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so it was just very sad watching him go through that, and just it was definitely a definition of a tragedy. He was 58 years old, no kids, but had married most of his life for about a little over 30 years. And it was just really too hard emotionally to go back and be part of the company. And I was there. My title was a chief marketing officer, and I led all of their marketing and design efforts as it related to all of the internal businesses. So that's why I left. I just felt the calling to get back out on my own, and I had the itch for a while. So the big reason was just the emotional aspect of watching my friend go through cancer and die. And the other reason was I had the unique opportunity to work as a referral partner, as affiliate partner for an M&A firm in Minneapolis called Revenue Rocket. And they do mergers and acquisitions and due diligence and growth strategies for professional services firms globally. And so they needed a good an outsourced marketing partner to be able to serve their clients once they got to the marketing portion of their consultancy of their process. And they had one. He was a bum, so they inserted me, and it's been working well ever since.
Great. And you mentioned you're still based in Fargo, North Dakota.
I am.
Many of our listeners and viewers are in Australia. Do you want to just describe, for those who don't know where that is, and how north it is? And
yeah. So you'll have to pull up a map. Just Google Fargo. But Fargo is in like the heart of the northern Midwest, right? So it's right next to Minnesota. North Dakota and South Dakota geographically sit on top of each other. And it's very dry here. There's not very many trees. It's all just flat prairie land. So when they say, I think prairie is somewhere ingrained to the state's tagline or their identity, but it is like the prairie state. It is flat. It's a bloody flat. There ain't no trees. There's not a lot of lakes. Like Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes and 10,000 swamps. But Fargo is the opposite. It's actually, the city of Fargo is under its, parts of it are below sea level. So
Wow.
it's just this, this really interesting topographical, geographical anomaly here in Fargo. So the state of Fargo is huge. It's like the fifth or sixth largest state in the U.S., but there's less than like 600,000 people in the entire state. So it's not very well populated. And there's a ton of oil, a ton of utilities, a ton of oil. Yeah, the largest basin, shale basin, because that's where oil comes from, is the byproduct of shale. And the largest shale basin, I think, in North America, correct me if I'm wrong, and geologists and oil people, I'm sure, will correct me if I'm wrong, but they have like one of the largest shale basins right in the center of the state.
Really?
And that's Fargo's, and that kind of their claim to fame.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I, as you know, I've got a fascination with geography, so I'm always interested for people to know where people are, because it's the world's a very interesting place.
It is.
Anyway,
it's a big community. It's a big little community. There's like 250,000 people here, and it's only like 2 or 3 hours from Sioux City, which is over 100,000, or about 500,000 people, and it's about 3.5 hours from Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is a little over 4 million people.
Which is where you grew up, so you know the area well.
It is, correct.
Excellent. Well, so obviously you've got a lot of experience in the industry, in the marketing industry. How do you think that experience has helped you with what you're doing now in your own business? Yeah.
So for first and foremost, the experience helped me because I have a lot of, or helps me relate to my clients because I have a lot of commonality with them. I was in their shoes at one point, right? I used to run a digital marketing agency, and we were growing fast. We took it from about 5 team members to a little over 30. In less than 18 months. We had, in economic terms, my econ professor would be so proud of me that I remember this term, but we had hockey stick or J-curve growth, and it was awesome. But it was insanely stressful. I was working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, along with our CEO and his business partner. So it was just really crazy, the amount of time that we put into it. But my point is, we weren't a huge national brand, right? We were reselling another company's e-commerce software solution, and we didn't have 1 million leads coming in the door, right? We didn't have a lot of revenue coming in the door. So it was really about pounding pavement and getting to the right decision makers and the right buyers in their buying journey, assuming that they're looking for digital marketing strategies or digital marketing solutions to buy from a company like us. So we had to target them right at the right time. So it was really an interesting time, and that's really where I cut my teeth, and I learned a lot about digital marketing in terms of working with a lot of small businesses, medium-sized companies, and even some really large e-commerce projects. So all that to be said, the one thing that makes me a huge advantage to a lot of these guys who are going through and really struggling with their marketing is I've been in their shoes. So I have a lot of commonality with them. The second thing I would say that my experience helps me to do today is it's built a really good foundation of empathy. And I feel like where a lot of consultants fall down is, or where a lot of consultants don't do a good job in their practices, is they go inside of businesses and they tell them, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you suck, you suck, you suck, you got to change all these things. And they change all these things, and then a year later, a new consultant comes in and says, that consultant was full of garbage. He was a bum. He didn't know what he was talking about. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you suck, this is wrong, fix this. And then 2 years later, another, so it's just, rinse and repeat. Where a lot of them don't approach their strategy or approach their, just how they deal with humans is from a very humble aspect, right? And they don't have a lot of empathy. So I try to use a lot of empathy because I know that running a sales and marketing team is incredibly hard. It's not for everybody. You have to have thick skin. You got to have a lot of awkward, uncomfortable conversations every day. And it's difficult, right? So, and it's not easy, and there's not a silver bullet, and there's not like one methodology that fixes all of your sales and marketing problems or lack thereof. So you have to have a lot of empathy when talking to people, and I think no matter who the CEO, whether he's extreme A-type, alpha male, external driver of a personality, or whether he's very amiable and introverted, it doesn't matter. Both of those personality types are drawn to somebody who is influential, positive, loving, and empathetic. People don't like dealing with a-holes, and they don't like dealing with people who are douchebags at the end of the day, right? And I remember when I used to work in a co-working space, right above the entryway of the door was this sign, and it said, no douchebags allowed, or don't be a douchebag. And it was hidden. It was on the other side of the door, so you'd have to come in and you'd have to purposely turn around and look for this sign. And one of the guys in the co-working space put it up there because he was absolutely right. Like, nobody wants to deal with negative, cranky, crabby people.
Yep.
People want to deal with people who are encouraging, who are uplifting, who are persevering, and who love what they do and who are passionate. So I've always taken that to my career path, and that fair amount of empathy along with my commonality being in their shoes has been two big things that I've been able to take with me from my experience into my clients' world today.
That's excellent. Yeah, and I think it's good, a good lesson for people in any industries. That experience and that commonality really helps with everyone in what you're doing, and also the empathy as well. That just is a no-brainer to help to be actually able to help people, be empathetic, and to actually provide that advice. So that's excellent. So obviously, today, as you and I talked about, we're going to talk about your 5 Ps of digital marketing.
Yeah.
Which I love. I think that's excellent. And this show's all about small to medium-sized businesses, and it's about helping them and giving them a leg up and a help with their businesses. So, do you want to start out? So, people who are interested, we're going to go through the 5 Ps of digital marketing. And also see that on Dave's website. But do you want to tell us a bit about how you came up with those 5 Ps, and then what I actually mean? Yeah,
you bet. So, if you want to check out and learn more about the 5 Ps, just go to my website. It's scottdigitalmarketing.com. And there is a drop-down menu. It says, what's your marketing process? You can just click on that and you can actually see it. So it's much more well-defined than what I'll describe it now. But my target market today is really, it's B2B companies. So I don't do a lot of B2B work. I have one B2C client and they're fantastic, but they do a lot of selling on Amazon. So it's not like we're trying to target an audience on Facebook or through paid ads or drive traffic to their website. They have a really great Amazon presence in the Amazon store, and that's it. But for the majority of the rest of my clients, they're B2B, and that's where I've spent for the last 15 years, it's been in business to business. So that being said, my target client, my audience, is that B2B services company, whether they're in high growth mode or not, is irrelevant, but they're anywhere from $2 to $20 million in annual revenue. Now, I've had clients who are bigger than that. I used to have a client and still do. They're down in Florida. They're an IT firm, and they're about $36 million in annual revenue, somewhere around that. And they're great, but they have smart marketing people. They have young millennials who have way more energy than I do and want to put up with way more bull crap than I do. So, they're set. They don't need a crusty old 40-plus-year-old marketer like me bugging them. But that outside of that, the majority of my clients fit that ideal persona of $2 to $20 million in annual revenue, somebody who can afford my services and somebody who really wants to grow using today's best digital marketing tactics. So one of the things that I found in communicating to that audience was that marketing is so nebulous and so vague and so ambiguous. They were like, what are we even buying, man? Like, you come and you talk to us and we get that we need to do Facebook ads. We get that we need to have a website. We get that we have to have clear messaging. We get that we have to have really damn good, compelling, persuasive copy on our website and all of our email campaigns. But how do you tie that all into one? And do you bill hourly? Do you bill flat SaaS? Do you bill recurring? Do we pay you on a project basis? Do we work with you for 3 months, 90 days, or 6 months or 12 months? What does all that look like? So I just kept hearing that over and over again. And what a lot of these business owners wanted, and even the ones who were dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneurs, like the willy-nilly types who were kind of all over the place anyways, they really wanted some structure in how I pitch my services to them. So essentially, they wanted me to productize my services. And in working with the M&A firm, Revenue Rocket in Minneapolis, one of the things they preach to a lot of their clients, which are typically IT companies or technology firms who sell some sort of recurring or software as a service, is they preach the model of SVP. And SVP stands for specialization, verticalization, and productization. So it's the idea of specializing in one thing in your industry, and then you verticalize that. So that's the S. Then the V part of it is verticalize, which means as an IT company or as a guy like me, I'm great at B2B high growth technology firms and other B2B professional services firms. And then you want to productize everything, right? So you want to make it easy to sell. So for say $5,000 or $2,500 or $1,500, you get these 4 or 5 things every month. This is what I do for you. This is what I pay you. I bill ahead of time. You know what you're buying. I know what I'm selling. Everybody's happy. Everybody wins. Oh, and here's how you measure it with some sort of metrics or KPIs or scorecard, and away you go, right? So a lot of them just nobody had ever pitched it to that before. So I just spent a lot of time talking with people, talking with my ideal persona, talking with my clients, talking with other people in the industry, and I came up with the 5 Ps. which are plan, persona, publish, promote, and purpose. And those 5 things encompass, those 5 P's should encompass every single digital marketing strategy. It doesn't matter if you're the CMO of Target, or it doesn't matter if you're the owner of a truck stop, B2B truck stop in Kalamazoo. It's the same process can be applied to any B2B, or not so much B2C, but it can be applied to B2C environments too.
Yeah, excellent. I think a structure is great. I think, I love structures. I love putting together structures and working with them. So let's get into a bit more depth about the 5 Ps. So the first one is a plan. So, what's the importance of having a plan in place for the digital marketing space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and thanks for asking it. I think some of the best plans that I've ever been involved in and written are written on the back of a bar napkin. And I kid you not, like some of them, I mean, as simple as it is, you have to have some sort of plan and a goal to shoot for, right? And I see so many entrepreneurs and business owners and marketers who just dive right into tactics, right? And they're like, well, let's do Snapchat. Let's get on Facebook. Let's get on Twitter. Let's launch a podcast. Let's do all these things and then A/B test it. And really, you don't do anything. You end up spinning your wheels. You do it for a short period of time without any consistency. And at the end of the day, what you get is a lackluster result. And then the decision makers or the stakeholders or the owners in the company are going, sorry, man, we got to let you go. We got to fire you as a consultant or as a marketer because you stink at your job because we didn't get the results that we wanted. So a good plan is going to start with a goal, right? And you have to align that goal with your sales. So whatever your marketing plan is, however deep it is, it can be, like I said, on the back of a bar napkin. It can be 27 pages long. I wouldn't recommend a 27-page long one, but I've seen them that long, and they don't need to be that long, by the way. But a good plan will talk about all of those different structures as a part of the 5 Ps, and it will touch on your persona, how often and what kind of content you're going to publish, how you promote it, which is just as important as actually creating the content. And then the purpose part of it is being intentional in terms of how to measure it. So a plan is just that. It's just a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's like the old adage, if something about fail to plan, plan to fail. And it's totally true. If you don't have a plan and a goal and a consistent short-term and a long-term strategy, your marketing is not going to get you the results you want it to. It won't fail necessarily. It just will fail your expectations.
Yeah, it's a bit like Stephen Covey's startup. You start with the end in mind, and have a plan in place to get there. So I think that's great. And I'm definitely one who agrees that you don't want a 27-page plan because no one ever reads it. It's like people who start a business with a business plan that's 30 pages long for the bank. I don't know whether that goes on over there, but in the States, but in Australia, the bank wants to see a 30-page business plan, and then it goes in the second drawer. And anything that goes in the second drawer is never looked at for the rest of the time that you're in business. So. No,
and that would be the same case here. The only people that want a 37-page plan are a bank, and really the only reason they want it is to know that you're not completely incompetent and idiotic to take their money and piss it down their legs or piss it down your legs. So let's just be honest. That is the epitome of a plan and the reason for a plan. And I love banks. Don't get me wrong. I have a line of credit, and I do banks business with my bank, and they're awesome. But they want to see trust and credibility in order to give you their money, and I don't blame them one bit. But that being said, you definitely don't want a plan that's that long and that convoluted. Typically, the strategies that I'll write are anywhere from 2 to 10 pages, depending on the industry and the type of product or service that we're schlepping. But it doesn't need to be super complicated. It doesn't need to be super long. And the best parts of a plan don't actually come from your brain or my brain. They come from the brain of your ideal buyer, right? That kind of just transitions into your persona, which is the second P.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that, about putting together the persona. We call it ideal client, ideal buyer. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the importance of that and also how you put that together.
Yeah. So I've got a really cool graphic, and as you know, ideal buyer, it's the same thing. I love that you guys go through that. That's awesome. And usually when I pitch this to most businesses, they've heard of it. They just don't know what it is, right? But really a persona is just a fictional representation of who you want to sell your services to. It's not who's buying it today. It's not who's buying it 6 months from now. It's not who's buying it 6 months ago. It's ideally who you want to sell it to in the future and going forward. So where a lot of companies, at least in the high growth tech space, is they'll shed their old personas because maybe they were selling their services, their SaaS solution, to somebody who's too small or really struggles to afford their product or service, or it's too hard to deliver or implement or whatever. So they'll want to shed that. They want to grow into a persona that's a little bit larger because if they're larger, the propensity of them to be able to afford it and implement it right and stick with them and be sticky long-term is really high.
Yep.
So you kind of shed that old coat or that old persona and you move on to your ideal persona. So your ideal persona is just a fictional representation. We literally just give them a funny, goofy name. Like, you know, if I'm working with, like today as an example, this office you see in my background is one of my clients' places, and it's a business here in Fargo called Marketing Ideas for Printers. And they sell subscription-based website solutions and subscription-based MIS print software to printers all across the country, actually all across North America, because they have clients in Mexico and Canada too.
Yep.
But what they do is they sell this software to their ideal persona, and they know that their ideal persona can only afford so much. So they want to really dial that in, and we gave our persona's name a name of Printer Paul. And Printer Paul is a guy who has 3 or 4 really big struggles, and he knows that he needs to solve those in order to grow his business. And without a solution, a software solution or a good process to help him grow, he's never going to solve those struggles, and he's always going to be in the same boat as he was yesterday. And without change, you're dying, as far as I'm concerned. So that's Printer Paul. So we want to help print the Printer Pauls of the world by selling them our solution. But first, we want to educate them on all the things that they need to do to get their business right before they buy our service and our solution, so that when they're ready to buy us, we're ready to go. It's a nice, clean handoff. They get the result that we want. We have a paying customer and a brand advocate for life, and everybody's happy.
Yep. And I think that's really important. We often, we'll have our ideal persona sitting in a chair in our meetings and ask questions. And I think one of the other really important things is a lot of people try to do their ideal persona themselves, but there's often things that they don't think about. So how do you work with a client to actually put together their ideal persona?
So that's a great question. And let me see if I have, I do. If you look over my shoulder, like right here.
Yep, you can see that.
That's our ideal persona. That's Paul.
Yep.
And then we've got sub-persona underneath him. So that's the ideal persona for Marketing Ideas for Printers. I was looking at where it was at, and it was right behind me. I actually have like a checklist or I have a scalable process that I use internally. One of the things that I know that I need to do in order to get stuff done is have scalable processes so that I can take a client, quickly onboard them, get them to the point where we're either creating content or we're creating their strategy and then executing their strategy, because I'd argue that there's more weight behind the execution of it than creating the strategy itself. But what I want to do is I want to scale all my processes so I can quickly onboard customers and my clients and get them going and get them off the ground, because that's really where a lot of them have struggled with marketing consultants in the past. Is there's too much conversation, not enough action, or vice versa, or they put too much action on the wrong things and they just dive into tactics right away. So I have a really good proven process, and as part of that process, I have a checklist or a questionnaire that I take all my clients through. And it simply starts off with, okay, if this is your ideal persona, let's talk about who is not. So the first thing I always do is we define who is not your ideal persona.
Good idea.
And that's where I was talking with you about earlier, is a lot of my clients who are in the high growth tech industries will say, well, this is our ideal persona today. Here's who's buying our stuff. But our sales teams really struggle to get them to buy because they don't have enough money. They can't afford it. They don't have enough team members to implement our solution. They don't have the resources or the bandwidth. They just don't have enough people power to implement our solution. That's why they don't want to buy it. So then my client sales teams get stuck because they're selling to the wrong person, right? It doesn't matter how much money in the world they have. If you have all the money in the world, but you don't got resources to actually do it, well, then there's a disconnect, right? There's going to be a break in that foundation. So what we do is we identify who the ideal persona is not, who we don't want to serve. And usually we find out that's the customers we're serving today. Not all the time, but most times. So what I do is I help them understand through my questionnaire, my checklist. And we start with very basic things like, what's the title of your decision maker? Is he a CEO? Is he a managing partner? Does he have a partner? Is he a single CEO? Is he a 51-49 majority owner with another person owning the minority? Is he a woman? Is it a man? Are they based on the East Coast, West Coast? What's the demographics of your ideal buyer, right? What kind of car does he drive, right? Is he a cheapskate? Is he risk averse? Is he risky? Does he have a really high risk tolerance? Does he buy a new leased vehicle every year? Does he not? Is he going to drive the same red 1995 Cadillac Chevy Eldorado that he's driven since 1995, right, for the last 23 years? What is he driving? What are his preferences? If he has a business struggle in this specific industry, where is he going for his answer? Is he calling his peers? Is he going to trade shows? Is he going to TEDx talks? Is he going to forums?
Yep.
Is he going to online forums? Does he go to LinkedIn? Is he going to his wife's Facebook page, or his spouse's Facebook page? What does that look like? Where are they spending their time?
Yep.
So we really want to find out all of those things as much as we can about their ideal buyer, and then through that questionnaire and checklist, we can spit out a lot of those details in the final persona document.
Yep.
And that's how your persona goes from this puddle of mud or clay into this moldable, shapeable human being with a picture on a face to their name, and away you go.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, that's a great little summary, and I think I love starting with the person that you don't want it to be, because you're right. Most businesses are probably working with the clients that they don't really want to be working with, aren't they? So I think that's a good realization for business owners to come to at that point in time.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the third P, which is publish. Do you want to talk through the type of content that business owners should be publishing?
Yeah. So what we do in that type of content depends, right? So what the industry is, where their persona is. So for example, for one of my clients, they work primarily in the IT services industry, right?
Yep.
And so a lot of these guys are pretty willy-nilly. They're dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneurs. They manage companies that are $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million in annual revenue. They might have 30 to 100 employees, give or take.
Yep.
And these guys are always on the go. And they're always connected to this thing right here, right? So no matter what is going on, they're always connected. Yep. So if they're always connected, if they're always on the go, that's a buying trait, right? That's a key, really key metric to understand. Like if your buyer is this guy and he's, 35 to 65, and he's always thinking connected to this thing, what's he looking at? He's probably looking at his email. He's probably looking at websites, as long as they don't suck. He's probably looking at different social media apps, and he's probably leveraging, maybe he's on Twitter if he's in a B2B industry. Maybe he's on Facebook creeping his kids or his wife or his next door neighbor or, whatever. Or maybe he's in an online forum on Facebook, and he's spending time in his local living development, and maybe they have an online forum that he's participating in on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it might be. You got to find out, first of all, where your persona goes to learn and where they go to absorb information. Not necessarily maybe it's about you or your industry. It doesn't matter if you're in healthcare, legal, finance, technology services, whatever. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You have to identify and figure out where exactly your ideal buyer is spending their time. So if that's the case, and if they're always connected to things like this, you got to give them content that hit things like this, right? So if they're looking at their email inbox, what should we be sending them? Emails, right? So you want to have a really good email marketing strategy as one type of content to publish. And I will say this again, I've said it a million times. My clients get sick of me saying this, but the number one tactic for any business to use to target their customers that will get you an immediate ROI is email marketing. If you don't have a really good email marketing plan, a way to capture emails on a consistent, regular basis, and you're not leveraging it to constantly drip on your prospects like a silent salesperson, you're losing sales. And so if you really want to grow that part of your business, leverage email marketing as much as you can. So in terms of the third P, publish, I'd absolutely advocate for having a really good email marketing strategy. And if you're a company right now that's going, well, crap, Dave, we don't have an email list. How do we go get one? No problem. That's why the companies like Sales Genie exist, and Jigsaw or Data.com exist. Or heck, if you go to buy a marketing automation tool like HubSpot, they actually have an integration to a list building company that you can get in contact with them that will help you buy a list based on an SIC code. Now, buying a list and using it are two different things. I'm not saying you should go buy a list, but what I'm saying is you definitely want to develop a methodology to start capturing email addresses, whether it's buying a list through Sales Genie, whether it's email capture on your website, or whether it's just finding emails in some other method or way.
What's an SIC code? I haven't heard that terminology before.
So SIC code is it's a SIC code. It's a code that the U.S. government uses to categorize businesses.
Oh, okay.
So they categorize them by industry. So if you're a marketing agency or ad agency, you might be SIC code 8. If you're a healthcare conglomerate, you might be SIC code 9. If you're a law firm, you might be SIC code 10. So it's just a categorization that the U.S. government uses to categorize business types.
Oh, great. Okay, that makes sense. Well, that's excellent. So that's publishing. What about promotion? So that's the fourth P. Is that what are the ways to promote your client's material?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. So there's lots of different ways you can promote your content. And like this goes back to the email marketing strategy I talked about a few minutes ago. Whatever the type of content you're developing, you have to make sure you're putting it so it gets in front of the right eyeballs at the right time. And that, I know it's tough, and there's definitely not a silver bullet to doing that. I wish there was.
Yep.
Honest to God, I wish there was, because sometimes marketing can be so frustrating. If I had any here, I'd be pulling it out, but I don't. But it is hard. It's hard for the business owner. It's hard for the person who writes the check every month for your marketing initiatives and your ad campaigns. I completely get it.
Yep.
And it's hard for really hard for the marketers. So if you're watching this and you're marketing, I definitely empathize with you. But
Yep.
you got to figure out a way to promote it effectively. So the first thing I would tell you is, as you build your website out, you have to have a really clear and compelling tagline right on your homepage. And it can't be something fruity or weird, like, we build synergistic synergies so that you expand your horizons as you build bridges into awesomeness, right? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
It's just a bunch of pretty words that some stupid copywriter wrote that tried to get your attention, and some business owner was like, yeah, that sounds really awesome. Let's put that on our homepage.
Yep.
You can't.
Yep.
So Donald Miller, he's an author, he's a U.S. guy. He's actually based in Nashville. You should look him up when you get to town next year, Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay.
He knows a lot of the guys, not a lot of the guys, but some of the guys in the ISI group. He's an author. He's written a handful of books. He's just freaking brilliant.
Yep.
Donald Miller also does a podcast. I think it's every couple weeks or every week.
Yep.
And he also does a blog, and he has a company called 5 Minute Marketing Makeover. Okay. And really what his company does is, it's called Story Brand is the name of his company. And they help businesses clarify their message so they can increase their sales.
Right.
And he talks about 3 things that you have to get right in terms of promoting content on your website. And he calls it the grunt test, like a caveman grunt, right? He says if you put your laptop in front of your prospect and you say, and you're like, hey, what do we do? You have 5 seconds to tell, so that caveman can look at your website and tell exactly what is it you do, how you're going to help them, and where they go to buy. And at the end of that 5 seconds, bam, close the laptop. You're like, caveman, grunt, tell me what I do. And if you can't tell those 3 things, what you do to serve me or help me, what the end result is going to be if I buy from you, and where do I go to buy. And if you're an e-commerce company, obviously you need a checkout button on your homepage. And if you're not, if you're just B2B lead gen, you need to have a button that says free consultation or learn more or contact us or whatever. If you don't have those 3 components on your website, and especially as you start to promote your content, you're losing sales. Yep. So that's I have adopted that as part of our 4th P in the process. So you have to make sure that as you're promoting it, once you publish it, and once you have your persona and your plan figured out, that you're promoting it in the right places. So you start with your website, and then from there you really want to focus on platforms and doing things that aren't going to hijack you, right? So in case sans the recent Facebook changes, now they're starting to censor conservatives. They're starting to censor liberals. They're starting to censor anybody who says anything that's reported to Facebook, and it's causing this quagmire. And I've got friends who have literally closed their Facebook ad agencies overnight because they are losing customers, because their customers are getting nervous. They're like, wow, we just want to publish cool stuff about soap or about shoes or whatever, but now somebody's clicking on it because they don't like it, and it's being reported to Facebook, and our ads are getting taken down, or our Facebook page is getting shut off, or whatever. Facebook's ad platform is really good, but it's not as good as people think it is, and it won't be really good forever. Google ads were super cheap, and it was super easy to launch Facebook or Google ad campaigns way back when they first started. Now it's a little bit more expensive, but there's an ROI from that too, right? I mean, it's a little bit more structured. You can get really granular if you have a really good SEO strategy to drive search results in your with your traffic to boost your business. If you do all those things, Google can really be a great platform to advertise on from a paid ads perspective. But it wasn't always awesome, right? It got started out rough. It was cheap, and then it went all through these different, these different metamorphoses. And Facebook's ad platform is the same thing right now. So my point is, you don't want to put all your chickens or your eggs in one basket. So they hatch in one basket, and eventually they get stolen by the fox. Now you have nothing. So you want to use and be selective about which platforms you promote on. So start with your website. Start with content places where you put your stuff, where you own it, you control it, and you can control the message. And you don't want to ever get hijacked by a social media platform. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things or shouldn't advertise on Facebook. You shouldn't put your content on Facebook, because I think there's a ton of relevance to it. But you just don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because it will come back to bite you. And a lot of my clients, and I've heard from people in my industry, are getting bit by that as we speak. So promote it on your through email marketing, promote it on your website, promote it via social media and other digital forums based on where your persona is at.
Yep. It's interesting with the email promotion. We use Infusionsoft in our law firm.
Oh, awesome.
And in that software, we were just sending out an invite to our golf day, which we have here, which I'd invite you to, but it's a bit of a plane flight to come to Australia to play.
Bit of a drive.
but my office manager who deals with all that was telling me that Infusionsoft have a new feature which recommends the time of day to send out the invite to particular people.
Yep.
And it's recommending most of them to be sent at like 11 o'clock at night. Which was,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that would mean that people are looking at their emails at that time of night. Presumably, that's what it means.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting insight to the customer, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely nuts. So I follow a guy like, his name is Chris Brogan. He wrote a fantastic book, multiple fantastic books. If you ever get the chance, just Google Chris Brogan. I pay for his monthly subscription. I think it's like between 25 and 35 bucks a month. I subscribe to his online stuff. I have a portal I can log into. I can get tips and tricks and instant content if I want access to it. He teaches me how to write online courses if I ever had, inkling to do that. And he's just a great guy. He lives in Boston, and he's probably one of the, hands down, the smartest marketers I've ever listened to or watched in my life. And so if Chris Brogan gets this, I hope he's blushing because it's all true. Chris, about a year ago, sent an email out, and a series of emails, I think, and he talked about challenging the status quo of what email marketing platforms will tell us about sending emails. And again, it goes back to the persona piece. So think about the competition for inboxes, right? When do you get the majority of the emails for your workday? I get them between 6 a.m. Central, because I'm in the U.S. and Central Time, I'm in the Midwest. So I get them between 6 a.m. Central and noon, 1-ish. And then after like 1 to 6, they start to drop off. And then pretty much after that point, I don't get diddly. I don't get pumpkin. So, so if I'm wanting to get my compelling, assuming I have a really strong subject line and I have that captures your attention immediately with some pretext on it, and assuming that I have really good content and persuasive copy and it doesn't suck or put them to sleep, why do I want to fight with all the other competition from all the other emails I'm getting in people's inboxes during their business day? I don't want to do that. So he challenged his readers to take a look at the best times to send emails. And this is a super awesome trick. So if your listeners are listening to this, this is a trick that you won't hear many other places. So listen up. There's 2 tricks. Number 1, if you want really kick-ass results on your Facebook ads and you're using images, make them black and white because they stand out from all the other images on Facebook ads. Most other Facebook ads and creative people are making ads out of color images. People like giving a fist bump and there's 2 hands and they're a color image. Don't. Use black and white. It'll get you like 50% better results.
Wow.
2, that's a big one. 2, we're just dropping all kinds of knowledge bombs here. So 2, the second one I would tell you to focus on with email marketing is think about sending them on the weekends in evenings. So for you, you're in Australia, right? Brisbane, right?
Brisbane, that's right.
Brisbane? Okay. So if you have an email list and it's targeting people in your area or your region or your area code or your time zone, you don't want competition from 6 to 5, Monday through Friday, and you don't want to certainly fight sending emails in the evening where they might not see them. Well, if your audience is a B2B, which I think it is, right? You'd want to send it where you don't have a lot of competition, and they're probably just gearing up for the upcoming work week. So think about sending them on Saturday evenings or Sunday evening. I've got 2 specific clients. They're both in B2B tech firms. And both of them we launch all of their drip campaigns on Sunday evenings. We get freaking amazing results. Like I'm talking about 2 to 5% click rate to up to 30 and 40% click rates. And we've tested campaigns. Like we've run one campaign alongside of another during the regular work hours, the boring work week, and people don't open them. They delete them, or they have an admin that deletes their emails for them. And then we'll send out another campaign on the evenings. We'll send them out sequentially on Sunday evenings or the newsletter on weekends, and we get amazing results. So think about, again, your audience, and the way that Chris Brogan phrased it was challenge the status quo. Think about where your audience is. Again, if they're B2B or B2C and they're always connected to these babies, send them an email during the weekend when there's no competition with all the other emails they get in their inbox, and you'll watch the results. You'll reap them. They'll come right in.
That's excellent. That's really good. Well, we could talk about promoting and the different ideas probably all day, but let's move on to the last of the P's, which is purpose. And this is, from what I understand, all about measuring performance as well. So do you want to talk about, like we talked about in plan, how important it was to have a goal. Do you want to talk about the importance of measuring your performance and how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always prided myself on being a very intentional person. Like if I'm going to sit down and have coffee or lunch or dinner with somebody, whether it's relative, prospect, whoever, family member, friend, I want to talk about things that are important. I just don't want to talk about the weather or sports, although weather and sports are cool and I want to talk about those things all day long. But I want to talk about things that really matter to people's lives, right? So I've always been intentional too in my marketing as much as I can. And there again, this goes back to the conversation earlier when we first started. There's not a silver bullet in marketing or sales, right? You can't just do one thing and it's like black and white instantly gets you the results. A friend of mine, Brady Nash, he's the CEO of B&G. They're a payments processing company here in Fargo. He's always told me that I stay away from extremists and people who think that things are black and white all the time, because they're not. And he's absolutely right. And it's great wisdom. And he's a young guy and he's super wise and super smart. But he's right? So there's always gray. There's always gray. And it's about getting things done in action orientation through compromise and understanding that there's a lot of gray in the middle. So that context should preface into this next statement, which is there's not a right or one way to measure all your marketing. But what you should have is a scorecard. So I use a scorecard with about 5 or 6 different measurables. I hate the term metrics or KPIs because I think those are so stodgy. What you want to do is you want to have metrics, or you want to have measurables that have to do with activity, and a couple of them that have to do with results. So say you have a scorecard with 5 items on it, and I can share this with you too, Jeremy, if you want to post this separately. I can share just an Excel spreadsheet. For sure. It's like think of it as a worksheet that your clients or anybody interested can download. So in this scorecard, it has typically 3 or 4 different items that are going to be activity-based, and 1 or 2 that'll be results-based. So it just allows you to get a really good picture if you were stuck on a desert island as to the health of your sales and marketing. And if you can paint that pretty good picture and you can get a good idea of what that looks like from a 60 to 100,000 foot view level, you're in pretty good shape. Beyond that, there's a lot of different ways to measure your different campaigns, right? Like I'm a huge fan of data and analytics. I've used Omniture, which is Adobe's analytics tool. It's a very robust, very expensive tool. I've used it on the e-commerce side. I've been a big fan of Google Analytics ever since they bought Urchin Analytics like 15, 16 years ago, whenever it is. Very little known fact, by the way. Very, very few people know what the UA stands for in the UA Google Analytics code. But that's what UA stands for, Urchin Analytics. We're a company that Google acquired. It's like PageRank. PageRank was named after Larry Page, the co-founder of Google. I know that too. So there's some other knowledge bombs. So if you want to look like party pants walking into a room, you can just throw those things out. Be like, wow, dang, this guy is brilliant.
He knows his stuff.
So I'm a big fan of data and using Google Analytics, but it tells you the result. It doesn't tell you campaign results. It doesn't tell you what your audience is thinking and feeling. It doesn't connect with anybody. So I've always argued that instead of using data as just the only measure point for campaigns or as a result, I think that's completely foolish. You have to combine your qualitative data along with your quantitative data. And that quantitative data would be your numbers, your analytics, your hardcore data, coupled with your qualitative, your behavioral data. And you couple those two together, and now you've got a really good picture on whether or not your marketing campaigns are getting you the results and the ROI that you're looking for according to that, whatever that data is. So purpose is just synonymous or a synonym, another word that I use for measurements, and it was really the only synonym that worked with the 5 Ps. It could be the 4 Ps and an M.
It wouldn't have the same ring to it, would it?
No, it didn't. So purpose is good, and my clients like that. I think most people, the best business owners I know, aren't focused on beating people up on a campaign doesn't work. They just want results, and they want to know the progress of what's going on. And so if you're able to communicate that in some sort of simple scorecard, you're going to be great and you're ahead of the ball game.
Well, if you don't mind sharing that, we can link that in the show notes. That'd be awesome. So look, that's as you said before, we're giving a lot of information to the viewers and listeners today. So we'll put that all in the show notes. But before we finish up, I just want to talk about the future. I always like to get my guests to give their take on the future and disruption. There's a lot of talk about disruption in any industry, whether it be yours or anywhere else. But in your industry, what do you see as the biggest challenges, say, in the next 5 years?
Oh man, that's a good one. So I see a lot of consolidation in the marketing industry, you mean, or just in business in general? Okay.
Let's focus on the digital marketing, because if we talk about every industry, that's a very long conversation.
Yeah, we'll be here for 4 hours.
That's right.
So in marketing, I think there's going to be a mass consolidation of marketing automation software in the next 5 years.
Okay.
I think HubSpot will not be publicly traded like they are now, and they're like the big behemoth on the block. I think they are either going to go in acquisition mode.
Yep.
And I think they're only operating, I mean, they're not profitable at all. They're just blowing cash like crazy. They're public, which, you know, good or bad. I don't, some people are like, well, they shouldn't have been public unless they hit the $400 or $500 million a year in revenue mark. Well, I'm not a finance guy from the SEC, so I couldn't say. But what I can say is I think that they are going to go in gobble up mode, and they're going to start acquiring a bunch of other small to medium size marketing automation companies, and or they'll get acquired themselves, right? You might see like Microsoft or Salesforce go on the hunt, or a big company like that, or even Facebook. I could see them building their own marketing automation software or tool like that. And the reason for it is everything is going subscription and SaaS based, right?
Yep.
And so I think as we grow in the marketing industry, you have to be willing to sell your services, and you have to be willing to help businesses take a look at the subscription model. I think one of the books that we had to read for our ISI group this month or last month is called The Automatic Customer.
Yep.
And it's really talking about how every business, no matter what you do, even humongous construction groups that are just 100% project-based business, can come up with a subscription-based solution. Is it hard? Absolutely. It's not easy, but you can do it. So I think subscription-based is going to be the name of the future, or name of the game in the future. I think you're going to have a huge consolidation. I mean, good God, there's so many marketing automation platforms now. There's another one on the East Coast called Drift. I think they're like a semi-quasi competitor to HubSpot. You've got HubSpot, Marketo, Infusionsoft. I mean, and those are just like the big players.
Yeah.
There's MindSpring, ThinkSpring. There's like another 50 of them that I haven't even heard of before, and they're all good and they all have their own capabilities. But I think that it's just there's going to be too much noise, and there's going to be a mass consolidation. So everything's going to be moving to subscription, SaaS-based, recurring revenue model. Not everything, but the smart business as well.
Yep.
A lot of industries will be moving to that sort of revenue model. There's going to be mass consolidation in marketing automation. And I think that this is a pretty bold prediction, but I think that one or two of the big social media players will not exist in 5 years.
Wow.
I don't think Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and Facebook owns Instagram. They bought them for like $1.5 billion 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I think two or three of those, or even Snapchat. LinkedIn now has got acquired by Microsoft. So if you look at their dashboard, it's actually looking more and more every day like Microsoft Dynamics CRM 365. So there's a lot of similarities there. But I don't think all of those social media platforms can survive in the next year, just blowing through investor cash. And I think at some point, the Silicon Valley of we'll just invest it and build it and they will come is going to go away. You're going to get younger, smarter millionaires and investors who are going, I don't want to give you $3 million or $30 million or $100 million anymore. We're just not going to do it.
Yep.
We need to invest in something that's a little bit more stable, and that's going to get us an ROI faster. And unfortunately, that's just the God's honest truth with investors. They want to see an ROI within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And there's got to be that conversation. So I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the marketing automation space. Yep. I'm not saying HubSpot's going to go away, but I'm saying is big companies like them won't exist in the next 5 years. They just can't.
Yep.
And that includes social media marketing automation too, like Sprout Social, Hootsuite. They'll get gobbled up and put into somebody else's suite. And like I said, I think everything is going to be trending toward a subscription-based solution.
Yep. I think that book, The Automatic Customer by John Warrillo, I think it is. We'll link it in the show notes. That's an excellent book. And we're in August 2018. We've just started introducing them in our law firm based on reading that book. And it's a great model and really a good read for anyone who's interested in that space.
Yeah.
I
also think, just to piggyback and say one more thing, he's talking about the automatic customer. I think your Amazon's going to have some competition. I think Alibaba is going to come into the U.S. and just blow them apart. Not negatively, like Amazon will survive just fine. I don't think anybody can knock them off of the top of the hill. But in terms of the proverbial game of king on the hill, they're going to be inching up, and I think you're going to see a lot of competition. And just the e-commerce space is going to grow too. I mean, now I can go into Facebook on my mobile app and I can make a donation right from a mobile app. 5 years ago, I predicted e-commerce was coming to Facebook, and nobody believed me. And I definitely feel like as we grow in the future, you'll be able to check out, and there will be a shopping cart, a checkout option in Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. They'll just be, and I'm not specifically talking about buying their services. Like if somebody's selling a car or a used laptop on LinkedIn, you'll be able to check out through a shopping cart option. So I'm predicting that e-commerce will continue to explode on those different platforms too.
Yeah, that's excellent insight, and I'm sure that you'll be right about those things. What about yourself? What's next on the horizon for you personally?
Yeah, just continuing to serve my clients. I work with a lot of really great people, really smart people, really passionate people. They'll have their hurts and wounds and weaknesses and strengths, but I just love working with them. So I'm going to continue to plug away and grow Scott Digital Marketing with my merry band of contractor misfits and continue to serve our customers around the country and around the globe, and just keep knocking out of the ballpark like we are every day.
Excellent. Thanks, Dave. Well, as we said earlier, there's a lot of value in this conversation. I think our listeners and viewers would have got heaps out of it, but I can't let you go without going into our quick fire questions. So I'm just going to ask you 3 questions, and you just give me the first thought that comes to mind. So the first one is, how did you make your first dollar?
Schlepping pizzas, pizza delivery boy.
Pizza delivery, excellent.
Yep.
What book do you think every business owner should read?
I'll give you any of the Patrick Lencioni books. Getting Naked is a great one. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Any of the Lencioni ones.
Excellent. And the final one is, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would that advice be?
Oh my goodness. That's what I ask on my podcast, man. You thinker, you got me. That's a great question. And people always stumble on it, just like I am now. I would say invest in my kids. Don't spend so much damn time working. Take some time off. Invest in your kids. So if my younger self is looking at this camera right now, Dave, don't work so freaking much. Go spend time with your kids. Get to know your family. Get to know your parents. Don't work so much.
And you and I met through the Iron Sharpens Iron group, the ISI group that you've mentioned a few times. And that's one of the tenets of that group, is to make sure that we as business owners actually spend time with our family, and we don't just spend it all on business. So I think that's great advice, and something that a lot of people should follow.
It is. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this chat. Is there anything that we've missed that you think is important?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just if you don't understand digital marketing, I'll give you my contact creds. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Dave C. Scott. You can just go to Facebook and search for Scott Digital Marketing, and I'll come up. I'm a orange and white logo. You can't miss me. Yeah, it just looks just like HubSpot's logo, actually. I didn't copy it. It just turned out that way. And you can visit me at scottdigitalmarketing.com. I've got an email form and an email address. So if you got any questions, I'm not a money grabber. I mean, I'm successful and I make a lot of money, but I'm not here to take people's money. I'm here to help them. And if I do good work, they're going to pay me well. So reach out to me if you got any questions on marketing. But I would just say marketing is hard, vague, and ambiguous. Just keep plugging away. Don't give up on it. Of all the disciplines inside of a business that you need a good process and a good thing to do, you need to keep the foot on the gas pedal and keep your marketing and sales cooking so that you can grow and keep your doors open and your lights on inside your business.
And of course, you mentioned it before, but you do have a podcast as well. So do you want to just quickly promote that one so people know where else they can find you? Because I listen to yours and I think it's a great podcast. So
yeah, thank you. Appreciate the compliment. Yeah, so my podcast is called Confessions of a Burnt Out Marketer, and it's where we talk about it's where honesty and digital marketing tactics collide. So my tagline is, as a business owner or a marketer, that you should be growing your business, but how do you do it? So what I do is I provide the best tactics and strategies that are going to help you grow, and we couple it with a lot of pragmatic honesty. And it's a guest-driven podcast, so I don't do all the talking. I have really awesome guests who've grown their businesses using today's best digital marketing tactics. So look me up on iTunes, and I'm on Google Play as well. Just search for Confessions of a Burnt Out Marketer.
Excellent. Well, once again, we'll link all that into the show notes. Dave, thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your Tuesday over there.
I will. Thanks, Jeremy. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Dave Scott. As I said in the introduction, there's a lot of value that you should have got out of this interview. And my top 3 things that I got out of it were really his history. And you would have seen that from the beginning of the interview. Dave's, his history, where he's come from, and some of the tenets that he lives his life by. I think they're really important and really good to get through to people. The second one are his 5 Ps of marketing. I said that in the intro that I found that really interesting, and I hope you did too. You can check out more on his website, which we reference and we'll reference in the show notes. And the last one is Dave's thoughts about the future. You would have just seen that, and he's got some really interesting thoughts about where that's going. So Craig, do you want to finish off for today?
Yeah, absolutely. As Jeremy said, the show notes will be available on the website. So that's businesslegallifecycle.com.au/122 for episode 122. So go there and get the show notes. And remember to like the video or share the content if you think other people might be interested in that interview. And if you've got any other questions, obviously, please let us know. We're here willing to answer the questions as best we can. And we love our listeners and viewers getting involved in the show. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Dave, for the interview. And we'll be back again on Monday for Fast Fix Monday. So hopefully you can join us then. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you next